From the North Beach Podcast Company in partnership with TSN, welcome to episode 13 of season 2 of the Ray and Darren Hockey Podcast. Darren Dreger along with Ray Ferraro. And look, we're at the midway point essentially of this shortened NHL season, Ray. So thought it'd be a good idea to dedicate our headlines to everything that's gone on, both inside the game and outside the game. So we'll get to headlines in just a moment. It's been a busy week. Every week is a busy week for us in the National Hockey League, but challenging week in the Dreger household, my friend.
What do we got?
Well, so I don't know. Do you wear slippers around the house or Crocs or flip-flops?
I wear slippers that I'm now getting low on the supply because I take them all every time I'm in a hotel. I take those little Marriott slippers. I got about 8 pairs, but they wear out, and then you just got to toss them. So yeah, those are my footwear of choice at home.
Well, we've had 2 slipper mishaps this week. One more serious than the other. Mishap that I experienced was this morning. So Thursday morning, as we're recording Ray and Dregs. My job, first thing in the morning, is to let the dogs outside. Right, Fritz is our Shih Tzu, and Fritz is like 14 years old and change, and needs to be carried down the stairs from our bedroom, down the stairs off the deck to the backyard. I mean, it's what you got to do, you know. That's what you got to do. So I'm half asleep out there. It's light out, but I don't know why this stuff happens to me all the time. But me and dog crap seem to have this kind of twisted little togetherness.
Right. I mean, you could look around, but anyway.
So I've got 2 pairs of slippers. I've got my in-house Goodwear slippers, which I put on when I
Did you just call them Goodwear slippers?
Yes, my dress slippers.
Oh, man, come on.
But I put them on, I grab Fritz, I walk down, and then I've got my outside slippers at the door to go outside, to go onto the deck, down the stairs, drop Fritz off.
I'm going to stop you right here. I am not on board with the good slippers, outdoor slippers. I'm not. I just cannot buy this. Like,
buddy, it's like I've also adapted criterias and categories of my soft pants. Like I've got my good soft pants, which I don't wear unless, you know, maybe the kids are around, their boyfriend, girlfriend are around. So I want to be comfortable, but I want to look, and they can be, you know, nice black Lululemon, whatever, right? And then I've got my real soft pants, which effectively are pajamas, and they've got like wolves on them. Pattern.
Sure. Yeah. But so anyway. as my dad used to, so we're not getting off your story here, but as my dad used to say, he used to wear his we used to call it his uniform. He'd wear an undershirt and his boxers. And so his sister would come up to visit. She lived just down the street, and she'd say, "Oh, for crying out loud, Ed, put some pants on." And he'd go, "It's my house." Yeah. He goes, "If you don't," and they'd laugh. It would be the same interaction, brother and sister, over the, you know, and my mom would be like, you know, so like, it's your house, Drakes.
Exactly right. So
why are you changing pants as per your company? If I come over, what do I get? Do I get the ducks?
No. Wolves.
Wolves. Yeah, ducks, wolves. You know.
You'd get some form of Lululemon. So I've got a couple of different pairs, right? I've got the golf pants Lululemons, which are awesome, right? So I might put those on for you because Cammie would probably be with you in your special company. I'd want him, you know, make sure that they
say, "Oh, look at this! He's dressed up in his soft pants."
Exactly. So back to the slippers. So I've got the exterior slippers by the door. For whatever reason this morning, I forgot to make the change. So I bumbled down the stairs with Fritz. Tiny's already piled right past both of us because she needs to get her business done. And I don't notice anything. I mean, dog does its business. I've got my shovel, look after Tiny. There's a smaller scoop, look after Fritz. Pick Fritz up, back up the stairs we go. All of a sudden, I'm sitting at the island, and it's like 7:30 a.m.-ish Eastern, and I'm like, what is that? Like I can smell something. And so the good thing is, unlike several episodes ago where I stepped in the dog crap in the middle of our master bedroom and then tracked it through the master bedroom.
Right.
At least this time, I only tracked it like 6 feet from the door to the deck to the island, and it was on tile. But I looked down and I'm like, are you? So obviously, in my grogginess, I stepped in dog shit, and with my dress slippers, no less. And I was so pissed, I literally took them and I threw them outside. So I got to get new dress slippers.
Okay, so
I'm not going to clean them.
Well, no, I mean, like, seriously, get there with a golf tee and take the, I mean, not that I've ever done that before and clean the bottom out.
Sounds very familiar.
So 7:30 in the morning, now you're down on your hands and knees cleaning up the dog shit.
Yeah.
That's a good start to the day, eh?
It's a great start. And normally Holly would be there to assist. And more often than not, when Holly...
Well, she's sleeping. That's okay.
No, she's up. She's at it. But because of an injury, which is the second part of the slipper story, she couldn't carry Fritz down because she'll do it. You know, she's not opposed to helping out with the pets. So on the weekend, she's wearing slippers in the garage. I still haven't figured out how she did this, but hers aren't real slippers. They're like old Crocs, and the bottoms are like as slippery as it gets. So I have no idea how she did this. So I've got an epoxy floor in my garage, so there's some grit to it, right? Again, I've got a putting carpet in my garage. Like, you've seen me putt. I need all the help I can get. So
yeah, that might not help, but yeah.
Once or twice a day, I'll go out there and I'll putter around. So I guess she somehow hits something slippery, goes feet up backwards, and lands on the rowing machine on her right side. And
that just can't feel good.
No. So, I mean, she's seen a doctor, but you know what it's like with ribs, right? I mean, unless they're displaced, you know, they're fractured. Okay, have to let it heal. So she's been in agony, which brings me to you. We're having our pre-Ray and Darren podcast prep meeting on Wednesday night, and I've got you on speakerphone, which I don't often do because I feel like that's unfair to you, right? If you don't,
right, I agree with that protocol, Drake. Yeah. Like, I don't want you sitting there and we're just talking away in the way that we talk, and Reese is sitting in there giggling at us, you know, swearing at each other, right? So,
well, whatever you said, I can't remember what it was, but you know, you're a funny guy, so it was funny. And she's like holding her side, and she's like, "Tell him to stop! I gotta leave the room," because she literally can't laugh or even giggle because it hurts so bad.
Have you ever hurt your ribs?
Not to that degree, no.
There's nothing. Well, a low back or like and ribs, like it, you know, obviously same-ish area, but like you can't do anything without one affecting something else. It's brutal. You're right. Like, there's nothing to do. You've got to wait for the bone, which the rib is, to heal, right? Like, oh man. But hang on. So you've got a putting green, a rower, a vehicle.
No vehicles. I've got an old Mercedes convertible that's parked in the third bay. I've got a 3-bay garage.
Okay. So, I was going to say, it's starting to sound a little crowded in there, Drake. You might want to.
No, it is. I'm telling you, you think of a COVID cave. This is truly a COVID cave. I've got a stainless steel bar in there. I've got a big screen, like a 80-inch TV on the wall.
This is not a garage.
No, I've got several NHL sweaters signed by varying people, including you.
Oh, really?
Season 1, I brought it out. It was the Atlanta Thrashers jersey.
Oh, yeah. It's season 1, 14 wins. Get it, keep it.
Signed by pretty much everyone, I think. I think I got it at a Jeff Odgers golf tournament. Anyway, the Draeger COVID cave is something else. But as I told her, stay out of the COVID cave. Just stay out of there.
How'd that go over?
Yeah, not so.
Yeah.
Anyway, how's your week been to date? Pretty good?
Yeah. I mean, did the Leafs game Tuesday?
Yeah.
Yesterday was one of those days where we all have them where all of a sudden you got about 15 things to do and you're like, I don't even know how that happened. However it all worked, driving kids here, there, got work commitment and all that stuff. And then by the end of the day, I think I did about 13 of the 15 and I felt like I did 4.
Mm-hmm.
Like you feel like you're running uphill the whole time. And then I got back and finally after Riley, our oldest, his soccer finished and the Canucks game started at 8 local.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, man, this thing isn't going to end till 11. And they got steamrolled last night by Montreal too. So I was like, man, I'm tired. I'm just dragging myself through the end of the game. But all good. Got the Leafs today. Leafs and Jets should be, as Rod Smith likes to say, should be a good one.
Should be a good one.
And and then kids are out of school after tomorrow, spring break. And we're going nowhere. You know, like where else are you going to go? We're going.
I don't even know if there is spring break in Ontario. Yeah. I think it was canceled.
We've been pretty fortunate here. Like the kids have been at school full time, and Riley's in high school, and Reese is still in grade 5. But it's all gone relatively well, I would say. Now we're just trying to pick up the pace on the vaccinations. I think I said last week we're 8 a day. I think we're up to 11 a day here. We're not speeding through things, that's for sure.
Wow, that seems to be the case across the country. So hopefully the progress picks up moving forward. As mentioned, it is a midway point, effectively the midway point of the NHL season. So we're going to dedicate episode 13 to an overall assessment. Our headlines are brought to you today by our friends at coolbet.co. You can check out all the latest odds, play some fun sports, and the top casino games for free at coolbet.co. You must be 19 years of age or older, and Coolbet reminds you, stay cool and always bet responsibly. You want to start with the Oilers? Let's start with the North Division. How's that?
Sure.
And the Oilers, they're rolling. I mean, boy, did they pump the Ottawa Senators last night, right?
Yeah.
Which
poor DJ Smith. I always wonder what the coach is thinking about 15 minutes into the game when you know you don't have it.
Right.
You know the game's over, but you still got to stand back there. I know what it's like to sit there and know that the game's over, which is not a good feeling. You keep looking at the clock and it's like it's going backwards.
Yeah. As much as it stings, though, is that an easy game to flush if you're the Ottawa Senators for a couple of reasons? I mean, they're a way better team than that. You know, we know where they're at in terms of the progress report of their rebuild. They're a highly competitive team. So is it a wake-up call for that group just to recognize that, Matt, you got to be ready to go every single shift, or do you just flush it and move on?
There's two different things here. So like Winnipeg lost 7-1 in Montreal on the weekend. And it's easy for them to say, for the Jets to say, because they're a far more accomplished team, just to say, man, that stunk. Paul Maurice had a great line. He said they took Hellebuck out. He gave up 4 goals on 19 shots, and he looked down to Laurent Brossoit. Everybody on the team is minus, by the way, the entire bench at this time. And he looks to Laurent Brossoit and he said, well, Helly doesn't have it. Everybody's minus. You might as well go in too. And Brossoit went in and gave up 3 on 9 shots. So I think it's easy for them to flush. For Ottawa, the concern would be more that, hey, look, if we're not right at it, like we're not right at the best level of our game, we're going to get our shins kicked in here. And I think that's a realization or a reminder of how far they have to go. Because there's lots of nights you just don't have your A game and you got to be able to hang around the game. Man, they got pounded out of that game and in a heartbeat. That was over fast.
Yeah. I know you're a big fan of Dave Tippett. You've known him probably pretty much your entire adult life, maybe even earlier than that, based on playing against each other, with each other, all of those things. And this, I don't mean to acknowledge this as, brilliant coaching by any stretch of the imagination. But the staff can see that the Oilers were deeply disappointed in the fact that they didn't play as well as they were expecting to, or they needed to against the Maple Leafs, right? So they lose 3 in a row. McDavid is a no-show in points. Leon Draisaitl doesn't have a series against the Maple Leafs. So rather than let it fester and all of that, he reads the room and recognizes that, you know what, maybe we can't do this on the long term, but it makes sense to boost morale for those two guys in Draisaitl and McDavid, and maybe the room, and get the offense moving in a contagious fashion by putting these two guys together. And he's done that, and the Oilers are rolling. Is that common sense coaching, or just a real good tactic given the circumstance?
Oh, I think it's both. You said read the room. One thing Tip has been always so good at is just understanding the bigger picture of everything that goes on. Like, Tip is a detail guy like you won't believe. Like, his hobby is like he builds things. He builds houses. It's not like he's building little things with the grandkids. He's building real things. And he has always been like, back to when we had no systems. I always said Tippy was playing a system, even though we didn't have one. Like, he knew exactly what needed to be done and what was going on. And so when he became a coach, I just assumed he would be really good anyway, because he's a competitive guy. He doesn't say a lot, but when he says a lot, it really means something. So to look at the Oilers, I get what they're trying to do there. Last year, Nugent Hopkins, Draisaitl, and Yamamoto really sparked that team around January when he put them together. And he didn't want to go back to that because he wanted to have some balance. So he flipped Draisaitl and Nugent Hopkins. Nugent Hopkins is on Draisaitl's wing. Well, now they get to Toronto and they get pancaked, and it was bad. Yeah. And I think the real skill of the coach is what you said, is to read the room, is that it wasn't just 3 losses. It was like, wow, those guys are way better than us. So he takes a look at the Boston model, right? Which is you put your 3 best, more or less, offensive players together. Boston has gotten amazing mileage out of Brad Marchand, David Pastrnak, and Patrice Bergeron. It's over the last 4 or 5 years. It's the best line in the league. I mean, they're just amazing to watch. The whole key to that, though, is because it's not like Boston's got a bunch of 50-point scorers underneath them. The whole key to that, in my mind, is A, that those guys produce, but B, that David Krejci is able to center that second line and give them some credible threat. So, odd as it sounds, maybe the key to Yamamoto, Draisaitl, and McDavid staying together on a longer term is Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. Nugent-Hopkins has to be able to help generate enough chances that it's not just one line. There's got to be more. There's got to be something else from that second line. And I like it because they don't have enough depth to spread through the lineup. So why not make your best group and put them out there 22 minutes a night, and then try to move some pieces around Nugent Hopkins and hope he can run that second line for you.
You talked about the bounce back of the Winnipeg Jets, and we'll go through the North Division. We'll touch on all of the teams. But you do a ton of Winnipeg Jets games, so you know this group very, very well. The offense up front, the talent up front is pretty obvious and abundant, I would say. Defensively speaking, they're pretty good, right? There's high character individuals back there. But to be a contending team, and look, right now they probably are. Right? They probably are a contending team. Certainly in the North Division they are. Do you feel like maybe they need a puck mover? You know, somebody to maybe bridge that gap a little bit between the back end and the forwards?
I do. I go back a couple of years ago when, you know, they just got decimated on the blue line. They lose Ben Sherratt to Montreal as a free agent. Byfuglien decides to retire, kind of grabbing him by surprise, and they know that Jacob Trouba wants out, so they lose the entire. And then 1 year later, Tyler Myers goes as a free agent, so they lose the entire right side plus Ben Sherratt. So Paul Maurice and his coaching staff don't have the same pieces. So to their credit, they figure a new system, a different way of playing, not as aggressive. They're going to accept the rush. They're going to try and not run out of position. Like with an aggressive pinch up in the neutral zone, which of course Byfuglien was all about. I mean, he was a game changer for that. So they make the trade for Trouba, and this is a real key for them. Is Neil Pionk has been a revelation. I mean, he was a a free agent signing in New York. Seemed like he was going to be a good player, but they identified him as the player that had to come back, the defenseman that had to come back in the Trouba deal. And Pionk's been amazing for them. He makes about $4 million less than Trouba, which of course doesn't hurt either. Plus they got a first rounder that they used to draft Ville Heinola. That's turned out to be a terrific trade for Cheveldayoff and the Jets. But I view them as a bunch of credible NHL defensemen that they need another player of a better level to mesh their defense with the forwards. Because if they can get the puck to the forwards, if they can exit their zone just a little better, they're going to be a really tough team to deal with. They're big, they're skilled, they've got an excellent goaltender. The other night against Toronto, Tuesday night, they win 4-3, and they gave up like 21 high danger chances. Like, that's not a recipe to win. Like, those chances have to go down.
Right.
And another defenseman, the name that is kicked around a lot right now around the league, not specifically to Winnipeg's Matthias Ekholm in Nashville. He's a good player. He's got another year, I think, at 3.5 dregs. So it's not like a killer ticket. And that would be a guy I look at and go, that they'd look a lot different with him back there.
Yeah, you're right. That name is floating around the league, and I give David Poile credit because things have not gone well in Nashville. And you got to bait that hook. You've got to bait the hook. That the ask would be high for Ekholm. There's no question about that. But I can't think of too many contending teams, Winnipeg, Toronto, go down the list, that wouldn't be inquiring, bugging David Poile about what it's going to take. Now, maybe the ask comes down as you get closer to the trade deadline, but therein lies the problem too, right? It's one thing to meet the ask, but if you're a Canadian team with interest, you got to move on this. The Jets went through it with Pierre-Luc Dubois. Like, there's the 14-day quarantine, and then, the kid's going to need, 3 to 5 days to knock the rust off, and then you worry about injury. So it's far from.
If I were Ottawa, I'd try and get involved in this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I would try and make a deal for Ekholm, and if it's Winnipeg, and collect assets, like collect players, and then you become the clearinghouse for them. So maybe if it's I don't know, whatever the return is, it's that return plus if you want them from me. And if you don't, you get a player at $3.5 million. Now, I guess I'd have to go back before I say that. Does Ekholm have a no move clause? Because if he does, he might not agree to go one place that he would go to another. But man, if I'm Ottawa, I'm looking to help out with the trade deadline. Hey, I'll collect assets.
Oh, for sure.
Here, and then, you can give me a little more when you want this same guy in 2 weeks when he's out of quarantine.
Vancouver Canucks, Thatcher Demko looks like he's back and return to play for him. He's been really, really good of late. No Elias Pettersson. He's out for probably another week or so.
Yeah.
Maybe shy of a week. And they've got JT Miller at center ice. So there's a lot of moving parts in Vancouver, but looks mostly positive as we're recording the podcast.
It does. I wonder if it's a little bit of false positivity. Demko is erasing almost everything. The last month, he's been around among the league's best. He's got a .936 save percentage in this last month. He gave up 5 to Montreal last night, but Montreal had, I think, 42 shots, and man, they had oodles of great chances. They dominated that game start to finish, and Demko was fantastic. Just saying, he gave up 5. And he was fantastic. So I think he's hiding a little bit of where the real problems are in Vancouver. They don't just go away with a 10-game stretch of really good play or hard play. I mean, they play hard, and I think Travis Green's done a terrific job with an undermanned team. You get to Miller, so they move him to center, and the frustration just oozes out of him all the time. Now, maybe that's what I looked like when I played.
I was just going to say that. I said, does that remind you of anyone?
But I mean, he's smashing sticks and it just pours out of him.
Yeah.
And I think, look, he's been around long enough to be able to try and understand that that's a complete waste of energy. I picked that up when I was 36, so he's got a ways to go yet. But I am interested in watching him at center because it forces you to skate. You can't hide in the weeds when you're playing at center. And without Pettersson, that's where he's been. When Pettersson comes back, I don't see how they can leave him at center. They don't have enough wingers to do it.
Yeah.
And so they've played hard. They've been in games that they weren't in January where they just got smashed. Last night was a bad one. Like they looked out of it last night.
Right. Yeah. What are your thoughts on the Calgary Flames and Daryl Sutter 2.0? Is this going to work, or is it masking what could be bigger issues, and that's just flat out player personnel problems?
Well, I do think that I read this tweet and they're like, this is going to really show what the Flames have to do.
Right.
Like I can't imagine Brad Treliving's pumped to be on a fifth coach. I can't imagine this was the preferred method. Now they got shoved into this a little bit when everything exploded around Bill Peters, and then they went to Jeff Ward, what seemed like an interim move. And then they kept him on. And this is about the players though. I mean, yeah, you can say this is about Daryl Sutter and a more hard ass way of coaching and a more accountable way of coaching. You could say all that and believe it, I guess. But this comes down to this core on this team has been here long enough. They've been through players, coaches, and hard coaches. And the fact of the matter is they haven't responded like that roster looks like it should. They haven't played well enough to what that lineup looks like on paper. And I think that's the biggest question, or not the biggest question. That's the biggest problem here, Drakes, is could Daryl Sutter get more out of them? Yeah, sure. Could it be longer term? I guess. But we're talking about players that are 26, 7, and 8 years old here, generally speaking. You are what you are at this point. You might have a good year or two, but I just think that this roster hasn't worked, and this is probably down the road going to be something where you go, you know what? They tried this, they tried that, and eventually you got to change the mix.
All right. We talk a fair bit on this podcast and just generally in the media about the Toronto Maple Leafs and by extension, the Montreal Canadiens. So I'm going to approach those two teams together in maybe a different way. And we've talked about Winnipeg, but is it clear cut at the moment? And maybe that's being disrespectful to where the Oilers are because they're clearly on the rise here. When you look at the North Division, do you see Toronto, Montreal, Winnipeg? Or do you see Toronto, Winnipeg, Montreal, Edmonton? Or do you see Toronto, Winnipeg, Edmonton, Montreal? How does it shake down at the midpoint for you?
Okay, so for all this mess that's gone on in Montreal, fired coach, the anguish, the angst, they're 3 points behind the Oilers and they got 3 games in hand.
Yeah.
I think Montreal is the second best team in this division. I'm convinced of it. I said it a little quieter when they were stumbling around there, so maybe somebody didn't hear. But I think as I thought at the beginning of the year, that Toronto and Montreal are the best teams. I thought Calgary was the third best team. Mm-hmm. I'm really disappointed in the way they've played. I don't know what to think really between Edmonton and Winnipeg. I think they're pretty similar in that there are pretty obvious weaknesses to their teams, but really obvious strengths as well. I'd like to say that I have Winnipeg in front of Edmonton because of Hellebuck, yet Mike Smith has been so good. If he can continue to play, not at this level, the .930 save percentage, but if he can play at a decent level, maybe it's a coin flip between the Oilers and Winnipeg for the third spot.
any of that group, and I guess it would be Montreal based on what you've said, in a position or have the talent or likely to overtake the Toronto Maple Leafs and win the division?
I don't think I don't think to overtake them. I think Toronto will win plenty. I mean, we got to remember too here, this division got tighter because the Leafs have lost 3 straight.
Right.
They'll get back on the beam. They're a good team, and I think the best team in the division. But a playoff series, I really want Montreal to finish second, Dregs, because I'd love to see eventually a Toronto-Montreal series. I just think it would be awesome. And as far as generation of excitement and, the old school teams and all that stuff, man, I think that would be terrific. The Leafs maybe are in their stumble portion of the season. The Canadians might already be through it.
Yeah. Let's go to the West. And the reason we're going to the West is because of a young guy from Duncan, BC by the name of Dylan Coghlan. All right.
Awesome.
Now stars for the Vegas Golden Knights.
Okay, question, because I know the answer on my end. Before Wednesday night, had you heard of Dylan Coghlan?
I had heard of him only in relation to the roster of the Vegas Golden Knights.
Okay, you're ahead of me. I'm like, oh, look at this. This kid scored his first goal. Isn't this a nice story? Good for him.
Yeah. Well, I got to tell you, I'm leafing through the games last night, and I see that he's got his second. And I'm like, to your point, I knew nothing about him. I just saw a name on a screen at some point this year and went, okay. And then I see he's undrafted. I see he's from Duncan, BC. I see he played, 4 years with the Tri-City Americans in the Western Hockey League. The first thing that comes to mind is McCrimmon.
Found one.
Yeah, he's found another one. But the Vegas story is unsurprising. There's some uncertainty to the extent of the injury.
Sorry, let me jump in. Coghlan, by the way, got a hat trick for people that don't know. It's his 12th NHL game. Right. He scored 15 and 11 goals the last couple of years in the American League, but he has got a rocket. And they lost 4-3 to Minnesota. He got his third goals 1, 2, and 3 in his 12th game. Just really cool way to get on the board.
Like a fantastic story. And Vegas in general, I don't think we should be surprised by where they're at in this division and how hard they play. And of course, they're a Stanley Cup contending team. Some uncertainty, some concern over Alex Pietrangelo, by the way, Ray, given the possibility of the extent of an injury. So that's something that we'll learn about more so day by day, and we'll report back on that here on the podcast. While we're in that division, a quick thought on, again, another buddy of yours, Dean Evison, and the work that he's doing and the response of the Minnesota Wild on a bit of a roll here.
They, I think one of the league's good stories, and it for the 100th time, it's a shame that, there's not fans in the building. There's not more media access. It is what it is, because the Wild forever have been a team that doesn't excite you. It's a great hockey market. They came in, Jacques Lemaire found a way for them to play immediately, which was like throwing a cement blanket over top of the game. And like, there was nowhere to go forever. And they did well. They never scored. Since Marian Gaborik, they haven't had a real exciting player.
Yeah.
Someone that makes you jump out of your seats. Well, they got one now, and it's Kirill Kaprizov. And Kaprizov is we saw him at the World Junior. We saw him at the World Championships. This guy can score, and he's got a big personality. He plays with
smiling, right?
He's a little bit, or I guess it's the other way around. Tim Stützle in Germany, in Ottawa, who we saw in Germany in the World Juniors. He's the same way. There's this infectious optimism and enthusiasm around him, and Kaprizov has energized this team. So Dean Evison, my old roommate's the coach, and man, he's a feisty guy and always has been. And he's got them playing really, really good hockey. They score, they skate. They've maybe another story that's that doesn't see much of is they've had a bit of a surprise in goal. They got a young guy, Kaponen, who has been in Iowa for the last couple of years, and Kaponen is kind of taking the net, and they're a good team. And so, like, I wouldn't put them in the St. Louis Vegas category, except they're right there.
They're there. I had a chat with Billy Guerin not that long ago, at some point last week, and we're in the window of the NHL trade deadline looming, right? April 12th. And so, I start to go through the process team by team, and we're having a conversation. I'm like, all right, you've done a lot of stuff there, top to bottom in the organization. Is there anything that you're in the market for? And he said, you know what? Not really, which speaks to the level of work that he's done, but also the fact that they don't have any glaring holes that they feel like, they've got to fill. And there's something rewarding. You would know this from your playing days. When the group internally comes together, right, and you're having the success that you're having, man, that's a good feeling. I'm sure it's a good feeling as a player, certainly as a coach, and definitely as the architect, the general manager.
Well, and one of the other things I think that's important there, and just as you were talking about what Bill was saying, is that sometimes you don't want to mess with what's going. Like the players themselves, they probably don't want anybody else.
Yeah.
They're like, no, you know what? We're good. We're fine right where we are. He's going to have to decide, do we need a tweak here? Do we need something else as they get closer to the deadline? Don't forget too, they have a far bigger pool of players to make deals with than the teams in Canada. They don't have to deal with the quarantine. That's a real advantage for the American-based teams. One other thing that, sometimes I think we look at coaches and the decisions they make, and you just go, the guy makes a decision. That's the way it is. Yeah. About 10 days ago, Dean Evison had to make a pretty difficult decision, and he healthy scratched Zach Parise. And, you're diving into the core of the team when you're doing that. And, but honestly, that's Dean's way. And they've got the results of it. I mean, a terrific first half of the season for them.
Yeah. We'll shift to the East, and we'll talk about the Islanders a little bit later and ask Ray and Driggs anything, because there's an interesting question there. And the assumption is, let's see. Oh, it's from Larry that, you are a card-carrying member of the New York Islanders, which you kind of are. I mean, there's lots of cards with Ray Ferraro's name and face on them.
Well, I could show you a hockey card, but I mean, it doesn't mean that I'm in the fan club for any team. Right. Well, but go on, move it along.
Yeah, we'll get to the East in a second. But I'm sure you see this. Certainly, you do on social media, and I don't know if coaches or managers say the same thing to you. I've had more than a few U.S.-based general managers say, "You guys keep pumping up the North Division. These guys aren't playing anybody; they're playing each other. Like it's not as good a division as you guys keep talking that it is." Whatever. I mean, I guess we'll see in time. But the point I'm making is shifting over to the Central, where we see, the Tampa Bay Lightning doing what I think we kind of expected the Tampa Bay Lightning would do. Less expected is the play of the Carolina Hurricanes. But first on Tampa Bay, and imagine what this team is going to look like when Nikita Kucherov comes back, essentially right before the playoffs.
I am guessing the media will start stomping their feet in a tantrum when Kucherov comes back for game one of the playoffs, because he probably could have played a couple of weeks earlier.
Yeah.
And, there's no cap hit. I mean, the Blackhawks did this with Patrick Kane some time back. He was injured, I want to say in March, and they brought him back miraculously for game one of the playoffs. Look, he had to have surgery. It's not like they said, hey, to make this work, we're going to have to go in with a scalpel and play around a little bit. And then, and then you just sit there for 6 months or 5 months, right? So but Tampa, let me back up first. You said about the division, and the North Division's not as good. I do hear it. You'd hear it. The Central, I'm just looking now. They've got 4 teams that are under 500. which is tough to do in today's game, to be under 500.
Yeah.
Detroit's got 7 wins. Dallas has got 8. Columbus has got 10. Nashville's got 11. So it's not like they're playing murderer's row here. Right? And you said about Carolina being one of the surprises.
Yeah.
I think the biggest surprise in the NHL this year is Florida.
Oh, okay.
For me. I mean, Florida's got 16 wins.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I didn't think Chicago was going to be any good at all. And they've got 13.
Yeah.
But look, Tampa is really good. The guy has been the beneficiary more than anything with Kucherov's injury has been Tyler Johnson, who's been able to play a little more and back in the middle of the ice. Really cool story I read the other day. About 2 years ago, Tampa went to Andre Palat and challenged him to get quicker. They're like, look, you got to find a way to get quicker. So he went and he, revamped his stride a little bit, got himself into a little bit different shape. He was always in good shape, but a little lighter, a little trimmer.
Right.
And it's paid dividends. He's been an outstanding player for them. And they got the best goalie in the league.
Yeah. But that's interesting to me because, again, different eras of play here. And maybe Al Arbor did come to you at some point in your time with the New York Islanders and said, Ray, I need you to physically do this. But I'm not talking about going into corners or going harder to the net. I mean, you're asking a player to physically change, right? I mean, that can't be easy.
It's not. But Dregs, just think, it's not like he had 15 pounds of blubber to lose.
No.
What they're saying is, okay, I see that you're in good shape. Yeah. I see that you're strong, but the game's getting faster, and you're falling a quarter step behind all the time.
Yeah.
There's a way to get quicker. Let's build a map. Yeah. And so to me, that's coaching, or that's organizational direction. You've got a player is a good player, but you're like, there's more there, but we got to find it. How are we going to find it? And so as the game gets quicker and you're getting older, you're not all of a sudden going to get faster. That just doesn't happen.
Right. Do you have a Stanley Cup favorite? I hate predictions. I'm stealing this position from Bob McKenzie, who's in semi-retirement. You're pissing somebody off when you make a prediction at any point. But I don't know.
You know what my favorite part? You know what my favorite part of predictions is when we make them in the preview show and getting text before we're off the air. Why did you pick those guys in front of us?
Oh yeah.
I love that. Yeah. Because they do realize it is a question and you have to give an answer, and you can't pick everybody. Yeah. I picked Tampa before the year, and I'm going to stay with them, even though I know it's a next to impossibility to repeat. I'm still going to stay with them.
I'm forgiving you now, and it really wasn't even your fault, right? So go back to that preview show. I'm not supposed to make the predictions because I've taken this Bob McKenzie position, and Ray Ferraro's Degero, which is the computer system that fuels the camera that allows us to go live from our offices, although Ray's office doesn't have a desk. And you couldn't get that thing fired up, or it wasn't working, whatever. And Billy Dodson, who's a great producer at TSN, is in full panic mode. He's producing this preview show. Dregs, you got to take Ray's predictions. Dregs, you got to take Ray's predictions. And I'm like, all right, I guess I take Ray's predictions. But now that I think of it, I think they were pretty solid. But were they just North Division? They were North Division predictions.
No, we had to go all the way to the final. We do every year. The Quizmaster makes us go all the way to the final.
I know, but in this particular segment, wasn't it just how the North Division would finish?
Well, it could have been because the Degero at my end, the machine, as you explained it crapped out, and I was gone, done. By the way, I may be the only guy, as far as I know. I'm on my second one this year.
Oh, really?
Yeah. All you do is plug it in. Like there's nothing to do. Oh, not at the Ferraro house. I'm on Degero too. Today I'm sending back the old one.
Really? Now, is it the box? Like, is it about that big? About that
that's
wide?
The one. Yep.
Okay, that's the one that they installed in my house. Probably 3 months ago. Pure gold.
Yeah, I got pure gold too. It's just the second block of gold. The first one crapped out. So anyways, I assume somebody didn't like my predictions that you had to verbalize?
Yeah, there were a couple of teams, and I tried to blame you for it, but they were like, no, that doesn't matter to us.
It doesn't matter. If it comes out of your mouth, it's you.
And your name is underneath it. So you should have changed it, or at least said that you didn't agree and explain the situation. So
I do have one other point. That was a terrible Bill Dodson imitation.
Was it?
Terrible.
Hey, I can do a pretty good Mike Babcock. I'm back in the coaching saddle. I'm ready to go with the U of S. Can't wait. Good players there, and happy to be back in hockey.
See, that's much better. But your Billy Dodson, that's
no good.
No.
All right.
Can you do a Duffy?
Can
you do a Duffy?
No, not really. He doesn't really say much.
And if you do, you have to be way more disorganized.
And I'd have to color my hair, right? So
how about him forever denying that?
Yeah, I know. Right. I don't understand that. Like, look at the guys on air that we have. Rod Smith. I mean, obviously, Rod Smith didn't get super gray, borderline white in a couple of months, right? I mean, so what? So what? John Garrett in Vancouver. Cheech, his hair was like orange already. Wouldn't even take the hair dye anymore. For the years that I worked with Cheech, I would say to him, John, stop it. Like, stop it. What are you doing? It's going to fall out is what's going to happen. So because he couldn't get it done, he finally let it go, and now he looks like Santa Claus.
One of my favorite, now we should probably get Cheech on because he's an amazing storyteller.
Yeah.
But also to defend himself here. But one of my favorite John hair stories is he needed an emergency touch-up, and they were in Anaheim, and he went to like a strip mall, and the color isn't in the Crayola box that came out onto his head. He came on for the opening, and Dan Murphy, who's a good buddy of mine, said his phone was blowing up with people saying, what's happened to Cheech's head?
Is it leaking?
No, just the color. It was like, honestly, it was not in the Crayola box.
Oh, so it reminds me, and we got to get going here, but so I'm doing a panel with Bill Waters years ago back in the Sportsnet days. And all of a sudden I look over and he's got a trail of blood just starting to trickle out of one of his nostrils. And I mean, look, we have all had nosebleeds over time, and I'm not, panicking about it, but I'm like, what do we do here? And is he okay? Is very quickly the second thought. And, thankfully the producers noticed it. So they, kept the video rolling and then came back on camera, and we went to break and he cleaned himself up. But some of the stuff that happens over these panel discussions is
well, I'll give you one, and it's two, but with the same guy really quickly.
Yeah.
It's with Jeff O'Neill with O. Of course, one, the famous one at the trade deadline, we got our burgers delivered and he's like, is there ketchup on that? He doesn't realize his mic is live. Awesome. The second is I've gotten up out of the chair and forgotten to put my mic back on. And so I start talking. Well, I don't have a mic on, but they're kind of picking me up from everybody else's mic. And O just takes his mic off his jacket and holds it right in front of my face. And I couldn't stop laughing. I'm like he's just trying to help.
Yeah.
But I was laughing. I'm like, man, is this awesome? So good.
I can't remember. It's either Peter Laviolette or Mark Crawford, one of the NHL coaches. It wasn't Torts, who sifted through TSN over the years, and they'd forget to take their microphone off to go to the washroom, right? Which isn't a big deal. It's not like the mic is live and the world is hearing you take a squirt, but everyone in the control room is, and the audio guy certainly is. And they'd come out and say, hey, can you just can you remember, please just shut your mic off at least. Right? And that would be a separate podcast all to itself. All of the follies and the experiences that we've had in television, including you walking into a plate glass window.
Yeah, well, that would definitely be on it.
We talked last night in our prep work about a throat punch, and I don't think that we had one aside from, and we're not going to go down the path of Department of Player Safety following the Tom Wilson 7-game suspension. That feels like low-hanging fruit. I've got one, though, all right? And I think you're going to jump on board. Either that or we're going to have a bit of a debate here, Ray.
I like it.
So as we're recording on Thursday, the Players' Championship underway, TPC Sawgrass.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. I love it too. I'm in a pool. I can't even think of all the players. It's one of those pick'em pools, right? Where they group all the best players into a group of 20 and then the next tier, and you've got to pick through like 6 boxes. But it's hard because when you get past the top 20, it drops off in a hurry. And now you're doing some guessing by the time you get to the 6th box. But I guess I'm not a Bryson DeChambeau fan at all, other than I do have an appreciation for how he's rebuilt his game and the fact that he's winning tournaments and he's won a major playing the way he plays. There's something about the character of this guy that rubs a lot of people, myself included, the wrong way. But for the PGA Tour to make a sudden rule change because of DeChambeau, why? Like, why? What hole is it? Is it 18 or is it? I can't remember.
No, I think it's 18. Yeah, of course. It's 18.
Yeah, there's a lake, right? Mm-hmm. So there's specific places you can hit the ball, and you're not going for it. But there is a bit of a bailout on the left side, which isn't even really in play, but it would be. Like, I think normally wouldn't there be stands there, right? Like if they could have
probably, yeah.
However the configuration is. But the PGA Tour makes a last-second rule change to make that position out of bounds so that Bryson can't do what he said he was going to do after winning last week at the Arnold Palmer, which was drive left of the lake on that hole, which would put him in a perfect...
Did they make that in course out of bounds?
Yeah, they made it out of bounds. And they're citing, and it could be true, they're citing public safety because as many people are going to be allowed on the grounds, I don't know what the percentage is. That's probably going to be an area where those people would be. But Bryson clearly had thought about it, right? I mean, this guy's got a very scientific golf brain. I don't know.
I don't like it. I'll tell you what I don't like especially. Look, DeChambeau's trying to do something that nobody else can do.
Right.
And I saw Matthew Fitzpatrick, another golfer, who says, "Yeah, I could put on 40 pounds and I could hit the ball for 350 yards, but that's not golf. Golf's about playing shots." Why does everybody have to play the same way? Exactly. I can't believe the golf media. They're like, seriously, pull the stick out.
Yeah,
like relax a little bit here. Like they seem like they want him to lose.
Yeah,
because he's doing something that is, in their mind, not in the spirit of the game. Well, you know what? Back in the day, they should have made Tiger Woods use different clubs then because he hit the ball too far.
Yeah.
And he was stronger and better than everybody. They should have banned going to the gym. Hey, look, there's no guarantee this is going to work, that he's going to win. Like last week on the 6th hole at Bay Hill, he hits a drive over the water, miles left, and it ends up in the bunker up by the green on the par 5, about 40 yards short of the green. He's playing with Lee Westwood, who hits a drive where everybody else hits it. Yeah. There was 178 yards between the two balls. They both made 4. Well, who the hell cares?
Who cares?
Just a 4. Yeah. But I'll tell you one thing. I thought that was amazing to watch. The people watching it thought it was amazing to watch.
Yes.
It's like this bastion of oldness holding on to the tour. Oh, we can't let it change from the day of Sam Snead with the old spoon. Just look, if they want to change it, there's one way they can change this thing and do it quickly, and that's make a tour ball.
Like a lower compression, something like that?
Whatever they have to do so the ball doesn't explode off the club face in the same way.
Okay.
And you don't have to, like, I don't know what it was, 5 or 7 years ago, these old goats, they got rid of the belly putter, in all of golf because they said in a way, it's anchoring the putter, it's cheating.
Yeah.
I had one, paid $350 for it, loved it.
Mm-hmm.
Made me a better putter, made me enjoy the game more.
Yeah.
I'm not playing tournaments. Why does it matter?
Yeah.
But they banned it. And so, I could still use it. But then when I play my club championship, which I like to play, I can't use it. Like, how ridiculous is that? Yeah. I love the game of golf. Those guys need to stop being the fun sponge and let the game advance.
So we're gonna share the throat punch.
We are gonna. Oh, you got me fired up about this.
I knew I would.
I can't stand it. I'm not a DeChambeau, big fan, but I like what he does because he's like, I'm gonna do this because I can. By the way, Matthew Fitzpatrick, who had that comment, he could fit in DeChambeau's back pocket. DeChambeau is a monster.
Yeah.
Fitzpatrick can't put on 40 pounds because he can't. DeChambeau can do something that other people can't do physically. It's like me all of a sudden saying, I'm going to play the game like Mario Lemieux now. Well, I can't. I'm 5'9", Mario's 6'6". He's got to reach from here to there. He's better. He could do things I can't do. Too bad. That's the way it goes.
Beautiful. Throat punch to the PGA Tour as we embrace the weekend and enjoy the Players' Championship.
One quick question. Do you know anybody that's birdied that 17th hole?
I saw you ask that on Twitter, and I'm going to assume it's you.
Oh, yeah. Let me tell you about it. 9-iron, right? The pin was in the front right. There's a little slope. I hit it just past the pin. We thought it was going in. Came in, and I literally just a pickup. It was just a couple inches away.
Really? Do you remember who you were playing with?
Yes, I do. I was playing with Steve Thomas. Oh, no, that was the Hartford group. I've been there twice. I was with Paul McDermott and Dean Evison. I believe it was Dermy hit 2 balls off the railroad ties. And each time the ball exploded up into the air, we laughed harder. It was awesome. Those
are the best. Who among that group? You mentioned Stumpy. Steve Thomas can golf.
He can play.
Yeah, who among that group with Evison, McDermott, yourself would be probably the best?
Oh, Evison.
Oh, no kidding.
Dino taught himself how to play golf.
Yeah.
His house used to contain, I don't know, I hope he's got rid of them, all these tapes he'd make about golf and golf shows and anything he could get his hands on, teaching things. And man, he hits it a mile. He's good. I'd like to play him again because he'd have to give me 4 shots or 5 shots.
His brother, Heavy, who we've talked about in the past.
Oh, what a guy.
I love him and God rest his soul.
Yeah.
I used to play golf with Heavy at Shiloh, Manitoba. You would remember Shiloh. Right. It wasn't that far from Brandon. Just a beautiful little military course. Never anybody out there. And Heavy lived up to his name. I mean, Heavy was a big guy, right?
Yeah.
And man, could he golf. Like, he probably wasn't as good as Dean, but he could crack it around the golf course. And I'll never forget, he used to psych me out with his putter. He had this short little putter, but again, he was a big guy, so he had to stand quite a ways from the putter. And like, there was about that much of the putter. It was a blade putter actually on the green. And then the toe of the putter was like that far off the green.
Straight up, right?
Yeah. And he was like a ridiculously good putter.
Heavy was a terrific athlete. He really was.
Good athlete.
Yeah.
Like a hell of a hockey player.
And what a guy.
Yeah.
What a guy.
We could tell Heavy stories for a long, long time. Ask Ray and Dregs anything, my friend. Remind our listeners, our viewers, you can fire your questions off to our social channels. That's at Ray and Dregs on Instagram or Ray and Dregs on Twitter. You can send us your questions on the website, rayanddregs.com. Vinny wants to know, big news this week, by the way, how much of a difference in the growth of the National Hockey League's popularity in the United States Do we think having some games back on ESPN, the world sports leader, after 17 years of not being in hockey, will make? It's got to grow the game.
It will. I don't see any way it won't. One thing to remember is that as sports TV's evolved, and certainly in the last 17 years that ESPN hasn't had hockey, there's all these shows, these talk shows that they have First Take and Next Up and all that stuff. They never talk about hockey. It's of no interest to them. It will be interesting to them now. It'll be one of their properties. It'll be on Sports Center for people that get their highlights that way. It'll become part of the mainstream conversation at ESPN. The last time ESPN had hockey, I believe the last year was 2004. I guess it was, if I could do any math. In that time frame, the 7 years that they had the deal, Toronto or Los Angeles, Chicago, and the Rangers, none of them made the playoffs. 3 biggest markets in the country didn't make the playoffs. So your ratings are going to be what they're going to be.
Yeah.
I was really happy because I think I think it is a real positive step for the league to be involved, to have ESPN back in the game.
All right, Stephen, and this is a tough question for you because you're not a flashy guy. That's not to say that you can't be a flashy guy. It's just you don't like to draw attention to yourself.
I'm not at all. I'm quite uncomfortable with if I wear a shirt on the golf course, it's got a little bit too much something on it.
Yeah,
I don't wear it again.
And look, I mean, we all have connections in the golf industry. Our buddy John Butchergrass, speaking of ESPN, obviously has some connection with the designer of the shirts that he wears all the time, like posting all the time. You're not wearing beautiful shirts.
Yeah,
I'm sure they're high-end shirts.
I've looked at them, Booch, or I've looked at Booch's shirts. I've looked at him, Dregs. I've gone to the website, and I'm like, I don't know. Can I? I can't wear that. I think also it's because I'm too short.
Yeah. I bought a shirt at the golf course, Royal Ashburn, midsummer. And the reason I bought it was very similar to what Booch would wear, but it had little purple fuzzy dots on it. And it reminded me of the COVID cells. So I bought a shirt covered in COVID. So it's nice. It's blue and it's got little purple fuzzy things.
No, but here's the thing though. We'll make that determination whether it's nice. It's not for you to say whether it's nice.
Okay. So Stephen wants to know, Ray, if you were playing today and you could have personalized skates, what would you want on them? And he's referring to Austin Matthews debuting his special edition skate on Tuesday. He'll probably wear them again tonight. And everything that he had on there, including the skyline of the city of Toronto, some personal information, all of that. So what would Ray Ferraro want on his skates? It's a tough one.
It is. Something to do with where I'm from, Trail BC. Maybe Trail Smoke Eaters emblem, one of the most famous amateur teams ever.
Yeah,
somehow I think I'd have something to do with golf on it.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know what it could be, but I think so. I'm, as far as hockey history or I don't know,
Interesting. Have you had
if it had something to do with hockey history, maybe I would have the Bobby Orr goal on one side.
I'm surprised. It wouldn't be personal. It would be something that matters to you, but not something that you were necessarily involved with.
No, I mean, if I were to do something personal, it would be my parents' initials.
That's where I was thinking. Yeah.
When my dad passed away, it was back before anything was customized, and I just took a Sharpie and wrote his initials on my cuffs and my gloves. And a few years ago, when Zach Parisi's dad passed away, JP, I was doing a game and I saw him and we talked a little bit. It was a big blow to Zach. And I mentioned that I used to write his initials on my gloves. And then eventually I had his initials stenciled into the back of my jersey. So all of my game jerseys have my dad's initials in the back right corner. And
Nice.
Zach started to do it. Zach does it too.
Nice. Yeah. It's a good question from Stephen. I like these.
I like it. I like it.
And we've got another good one from Scott in Australia, but I mentioned earlier in the pod when we were going through all the divisions that we talked about the Islanders a little bit more, deservedly so. So this one is from Larry, and Larry is saying, I'm buying into Ray's old team, the Isles. They're rolling. At the time of the recording here, 8-1-1 in their last 10 games, 5th overall in league points, 6 points percentage, or 6th in points percentage at 692. Yep. So he's asking Ray, are Islanders fans being bamboozled, or do you think that this team could be the dark horse and will make a cup run this year?
By the way, did Larry use the word bamboozle, or did you put it in?
No. Well, he actually said, have I been bamboozled?
Okay, fantastic. Outstanding word not used near enough. And so now I've got to answer the question.
Yes.
Because I think they're pretty good. And the reason I think they're pretty good is top through bottom. They might not jump out at you other than Matt Barzal.
Yeah.
But it's like there's no real drop off. They're big. They get really good goaltending, of course, which is a key. They defend really well. Barry Trotz has almost perfected that system. The one thing I thought we saw in the bubble last year is that if they get behind, they have a tough time manufacturing offense at times.
Yeah.
And that might be their Achilles heel. But, they've got guys that can score. Like they've got guys that can score enough, put it that way. And, guys that maybe don't get a lot of headlines, but Bailey and Nelson, like those guys are key players for them. They have to be good for them, because we're going to hear about Barzal and
for sure
and Anders Lee, and can they generate enough offense would be my only question. But man, they are going to smother just about everybody they play against. They are legit.
Last question from Scott for 2 reasons. Number 1, Scott says, love the podcast. So automatically Scott is in.
Is Scott the guy in Australia?
Scott is the guy in Australia. And that's the other reason why we would respect the question and answer the question. Sure. Anybody who texts or tweets or goes online and sends a question from Australia, we're going to get to it here on the Ray and Darren podcast.
You know what I learned the other day? Australians drink a lot of Canadian club stuff.
Yes, they do. Do you suppose they go with the drink of choice? The Canadian Club, ginger, a little slice of lime? Or are they a bit more old school like me, where I've got this nice wooden whiskey goblet?
Australians don't strike me as dancing it up.
No?
Put it in the glass. Let's go.
So, okay, we got to get going here. But every time you say something like this, it reminds me of a story. And I'll tell you a very quick one. So early in the pandemic, they actually kept this reptile place open in Whitby, Ontario. Reptalia, it's called. And so it's a reptile zoo, right? So Katie, my daughter and I are bored. We're like, let's go look at the reptiles. Well, this place was off the charts good, like fantastic. And then you get to the Black Mamba display.
Okay.
Black Mamba, I think, and somebody's going to correct me, I think the 2 most poisonous snakes in Australia are the Black Mamba and a brown snake. All right?
Okay.
Well, now, obviously they're encased in glass, but it's a real nice big display. Lots of room for the snake to do what it does. And I'm like right up against the glass. And all of a sudden this thing, it obviously picks up on movement, or it can see me or whatever. It realizes that I'm there. And it makes a beeline from the corner of the display all the way, it's probably 15, 20 feet to where I am behind the glass, thankfully. And it slithers up. It's probably about an 8-foot snake, right? Like slithers up the glass and is like staring at me.
Did you back up?
Oh, 100%. I was like, let's go.
Yeah, I would have bailed out of there. Oh, no, not for me.
Anyway, there's my connection to Australia. So Scott loves the podcast, wants to know, this is hard-hitting stuff. Scott wants to know if Cammie's home office has a desk, and if so, does that make it more of an office than your office, Ray?
Cammie has a on the other side of this wall.
Yeah.
Cammie's got a desk there. However, there's 2 desks in the room. There's another one that the kids, Reese, our younger 11-year-old, plays video games at. Mm-hmm. Reese also warms my heart because I used to do this as a little boy. He's got all these little mini hockey men and soccer men, little players that he plays with. And we're always making little stickers to put on the back of the players. He sometimes has teams. Sometimes he makes all-star teams. We write out the things just so they all fit right. And so he's got all these games going on. Cammie's office or office space is just short of what a grenade would look like if it went off.
I knew you were going to say that.
Because her space is fine on her desk.
Yeah.
Reese has stuff like an 11-year-old. It's everywhere. Clothes, food. Yeah. Like, I can't even go in there. I can't. But so does it make it more of an office? I would say it makes it a different office.
Oh, well, 84% of the people who recently answered a poll question would disagree. All right. What's, aside from doing games, you got any fun stuff lined up? Is it warm enough in the Vancouver area that you can actually go out and hit balls and do some golf related stuff?
Well, as soon as you shut up, I'm going out the door and I'm going to go hit balls.
Really?
Oh,
and the knee is good, right? We haven't had a rehab update.
Yes, it's good. It's good. I could play. I'm getting ready to go. The courses are open. The course is in fantastic shape. Oh. And I'm going to hit balls today because I don't have to travel. So I drive to the course 15 minutes, hit balls for 45 minutes, grab lunch, come home. And then, because I had today's easy day prep wise, because we just did the Jets and the Leafs the other day. So it's the same game.
We've got a buddy of ours, Darren Pang, is going to be on the podcast in the weeks ahead here. I mean, he's got great stories. There's no question about that. Did you beat his record? Because he had the knee replacement and then he was either golfing or hitting balls?
No chance. See, Panger was up and, he played about 2.5 months after knee replacement, said it was a dumb decision, but he went and played. I think he was able to play quicker because the replacement knee for him is much smaller.
And yours is made out of titanium. His, they carved out of a small animal, right?
It's just a little tiny kneecap.
All right, buddy. Well, until we talk again, have a great week.
Thanks, you too. Everyone be well. Thanks for listening.
You bet. Huge shout out to our partners who make the pod possible. That's coolbet.co, free-to-play sports and casino games website, and our friends at OK Tire. Thank you to OK Tire. If you're interested in partnering with us here, please reach out to our website, rayanddregs.com. That's episode 13, a mid-season review. We look forward to episode 14 next week. In the meantime, stay well and have fun, everybody.